Hear ye, and welcome to the Royal Geek Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Rollison, also known as T-Roll, and tonight, of course, I am joined by my very good friends. First of all, we have Justin Sandoval, a.k.a. Sandy, and we also have the one and only Anthony Amato, who we like to call Shamato. Gentlemen, it is good to be back with you. How are y'all feeling?
Man, feeling good, man. This new job has been really great for me, by the way. Not humble brag, I guess. But I feel rejuvenated. I feel good. I'm excited to dive deep into this.
Feel like a human being?
Yeah, I do feel like a human being. Yes. But diving deep into Marvel even further this down period of new content as far as what we cover. Last of Us has been fantastic, but I know weird release time, so we're not gonna dive too deep into that. But just know, Last of Us. If you're not watching it, then
yeah, it would have been impossible for us to record in a meaningful way.
Anything meaningful, really,
Yeah. We always record on Friday nights, which is where we're at right now.
That's right.
So when you listen to this, know that for us, it's a Friday night, and we feel great that it's Friday. So, big shout out to all of our listeners, everyone who's tuning in, whether you're watching or listening. We want to remind you to please hit the subscribe button, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're listening to the podcast version on Apple, Spotify, Google, somewhere else. Just subscribe to the podcast so you get all of our latest videos and or audio drops. Okay, and then also follow us on social media at Royal Geek Pod. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Those are really where we're doing the most stuff. Check those out and kind of stay in the loop. And share the content with some of your friends. You know, any other Marvel friends you have who you think would be, you know, who would enjoy our podcast or any of the numerous topics we've covered over the last few years. You know, send some of your favorite episodes to some of your friends who you think it would be a good fit for, who might like it, who might enjoy it, and help us to grow the brand. That's right, the brand. Nice. So we are continuing our build-up for the next Marvel movie, which is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Still a few weeks away. And again, like we said last week, the project we're kind of working on now to kind of fill some time, but also it has been something that has been in our chamber over the last year or so. Was we've always wanted to rank all of the Marvel movies and projects by phase, and so that's what we've been doing the last couple of weeks. We started a few weeks ago, maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago, doing Phase 4 because it was the most recent one. So you can find that podcast on our feed. And then last week we did Phase 1. We took it back to the beginning, and we did the first 6 movies in the MCU, and we ranked them. And tonight we're going to do Phase 2. So I think it's time, boys. We just jump in. You good to go?
Yeah,
let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, so similar to the last few times, these guys have sent me their rankings, but they have not seen anybody else's. I have seen everyone's rankings because I have pooled the numbers and essentially got a
secret formula.
I got a secret formula for sure.
Some algorithm that I use.
Yeah, it's really complex basic
Yes.
math. But yes, you can trust that the numbers are in good hands. And so with that in mind, let's start with the 6th ranked movie in Phase 2, according to us, the Royal Geeks. All right.
We got to start here. Are you serious?
Yes. Are you excited to talk for a few minutes about this movie?
I already know the movie. It's just because I gave it like 1,000 double points of negative in order to score this. It's so bad.
Justin's list was the first 5 movies and then a lot of space between movie number 5 and movie number 6.
But, I mean, it could have been number 1 on both of mine and T-Roll's list.
It could have been.
No way. No way.
No, it's for those who don't know, we've joked about this before in the pod, so there's probably at least one person out there who is tracking with what's going on here. But very clearly for us, across the board, Iron Man 3 was the worst movie in Phase 2.
Worst movie in all of
it's our
Marvel.
It's my least favorite Marvel movie.
It's my least favorite MCU movie, period. Hands down. I don't even think it should count.
Shimano,
is
that the same for you, you think?
Probably. Maybe Eternals could give it a run for its money.
Eternals is like at the bottom, and then it's like 1,000 feet below, and it's Iron Man 3.
I think it's more of your personal feelings about some certain characters' roles that really pushes it that far down.
Why don't we just hit it? Then? Why don't we just do it? Why don't we just jump into it, Justin?
Yeah. Listen, I don't want to spend too much time talking about this piece of garbage.
But you got to say why we don't like it.
It just sucks, man. It is false advertisement. That's what it is. Okay, so the trailer, you get this ominous like villain of Ben Kingsley, who is by far he is an incredible actor. He truly is. If you're not familiar with any of his work, then you need to get on board because this guy is a phenomenal actor. So you get this buildup of an incredible portrayal of a villain.
Yes.
Okay. And then
it looks like it's paying off.
It looks like it's paying
halfway
off.
Through the movie.
You are all on board. You were like, wow, this guy's menacing.
Yes.
He is absolutely incredible. And then at the halfway mark, the twist happens, and he's just an actor, and the guy pulling the strings is actually some billionaire tech guy, stupid looking.
Yeah, what was his?
I don't care.
Aldrich Killian.
Yeah, Aldrich Killian, who's also played by a phenomenal actor in Guy Pearce, and he completely ruined that movie for me because the Mandarin in itself is worth himself, as a villain. He should be his own phase villain. And luckily, Shang-Chi did him justice, and I respect that Shang-Chi for that.
We're thankful for that.
Yes,
yeah.
but Ben Kingsley being some actor,
years to get to, by the way.
Liverpool fan. Let's throw that in there, okay? That's another mark against him.
Oh, come on. So here's the thing,
terrible.
And again,
Absolutely
keep
terrible.
in mind that Avengers comes out in 2012, May of 2012, massive movie, everybody's loving it. By the time Iron Man 3 comes out, for one, there was a lot of drama about all of these actors signing new contracts with Marvel.
Yeah.
Because at the time, nobody was signed. Even Robert Downey Jr., the way the movie ends, they're taking out his chest plate.
Yeah.
And it's because they were we might not have RDJ back,
Yeah.
And we had to wait a whole year for this movie, which after the success of, the first Avengers, that was a long year. And then for it just to flop the way it did, it was a letdown.
Financially, it did not flop. But
right.
For the fans out there who are real fans, this movie flopped.
It's always surprising to me when I find there are people who I respect their opinion, and then they actually say that they actually kind of liked Iron Man 3.
I'm thinking of somebody in particular who he's a close friend of ours who actually does like Iron Man 3, and every time I see him, I just want to spit on him. I really do.
It's not Sweat, is it?
No.
Okay, good. Sweat, if you're listening, just making sure. Wasn't sure where Sweat stands on that, so.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, man.
I would say the only kind of redeeming factor in the movie is they do dive into an interesting PTSD type storyline that they do build up in it. But other than that, I would say the story is very kind of hit or miss. Actually, Ben Kingsley is actually a very hit or miss actor. He's Oscar worthy, or he's in The Love Guru, type of
Good
actor.
Good point.
And in this movie, he kind of hit both sides, where
Tale of two halves.
It really was. And so, and it's actually kind of gotten worse as it goes along, as you've seen, plot lines that they look like they were setting up just kind of fizzle out and not really do anything. With the little boy and stuff like that. Nothing really has come from that.
Except he's at the funeral, which that was just
for some reason.
It just felt so strange.
Yes,
I know.
And there was just a lot of just weird stuff going on with the characters, and it was just odd.
It just wasn't good.
Listen, Pepper having her moment at the end, it just didn't make any. I don't know. It didn't make any sense with her getting the powers and I don't know,
the extremist stuff.
Yes.
Anyways, look, it wasn't a great movie.
I have nothing positive to say.
There will be people. There are people watching and listening right now who are probably wow, I actually liked Iron Man 3. And you know what? That's fine. If you enjoyed it, that's okay. We just can't be friends. But
we will never be friends.
All jokes aside, we're just we have very strong. And for us, we all love Iron Man.
How many times have you seen this movie, Tyler?
I've seen it a few, because I'm pretty sure I saw it at least twice in theaters, almost certainly.
Yeah.
And then I've seen it again since, but it's less than 5, absolutely.
Yeah. Shimano?
Probably a handful. Yeah.
Handful.
I've seen it once.
I've seen it twice.
Okay, twice.
I saw it once in theaters.
You gave it another shot.
And then I gave it one more shot when it came out on Blu-ray.
You're like, okay, it can't be that bad. Yeah, this Blu-ray, right?
Yes. That
Surprised
one
you
right
haven't
there.
burned it.
When it's in my case, it's turned backwards.
Yeah.
Just to let you know.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, the last thing that I would say is like the only thing that you could that's the only reason someone could have liked this movie was if they did not understand the gravity of what was done to the Mandarin.
That's probably
Like,
what it is.
That's
That's
exactly
really
right.
the only. That's the only reason
Good
why.
point, Shamato.
And there are
Great
people
point.
out there who that's the case. So, yes.
It would be like if they never showed Thanos again after he was sitting in the chair. You know.
Yeah. That'd be brutal.
Please, let's move on. I don't
All
even
right,
wanna
let's
talk
move
about
on.
this
The number
anymore.
5th ranked movie. It's
I hate
also
that movie.
it's also like widely known as the worst Marvel movie across the board for most people. For us, it's the second worst, and that would be Thor: The Dark World.
Yes,
Again,
it was a dark time.
yeah, that's the thing. So you wait a year after Avengers. The next May you get Iron Man 3, and then in November, like 5 months later or whatever, 6 months later, you get Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah.
And they just both
It's
flopped.
not looking good at
No.
all for MCU
You're like,
at this point. Do you think?
Uh-oh.
Do you think that this period of the MCU, the Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World, is a darker time than the Phase 4 in a row that was, I wouldn't say, up to par?
The darkest timeline?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I think it'll be interesting to. I don't think you can 100% say one way or another at the moment because we haven't seen how the rest of how this gonna follow up. Whereas we know what happens directly after
That's
those
true.
two movies.
That's true.
So
It will be worth a conversation though later.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
definitely
a fun
for sure.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should revisit
But,
it. But let's focus on
but
just the
as far,
suckfest
as far,
that was
as far as Thor: The Dark World, it is a very bad movie as far as the MCU goes. However, at the end of the day, it becomes a very important movie
Yes, definitely
in the
very
MCU
important.
when it comes to the Endgame and Infinity War.
Yes.
So, yes, it sucks. However, there is meaning behind it, and it is sadly a recommendation when you have to say, "Well,
It's
what do
a
I need to watch
necessary
before
film.
Avengers?"
It's a necessary
Infinity War?
film, yeah.
It is.
Yes.
It has become a necessary film, and therefore giving it some redeeming qualities because you kind of pick up on those things that you overlooked the first time around.
Yes.
It is true because you see, unlike when you go back in their Iron Man plot lines that just disappear, Thor: The Dark World, they follow through with a lot of those plot lines. Like you see these things play out later as you go along. So you have that kind of stuff, and it kind of sets you start to see the tone shift in Thor as well. Like as you see in Thor 1, there's a little bit of comedy. Thor 2, they're taking the next step in their comical, and then of course they reach the pinnacle in Thor 3 in Ragnarok where they've where it's very comical, and you start to see that shift more and more towards that style of movie making. But it just was once again bland villainy a little bit. Is definitely plays it out. There are some moments that are pretty solid in it that you see. And like we said, that really means something. Everything to do with the ether means something.
Sure.
Everything to the scenes that they go back to in Endgame are from Thor: The Dark World timeline, right then. You get a lot of that kind of stuff in there, and you get the whole situation with. Oh gosh, I just lost my timeline or my my train
Jane
of thought
Foster?
there for a second.
Jane Foster? Is that what you're saying?
Not Jane Foster. Going into Loki, leading into the Loki
series.
personality and leading into the Loki series. The
His
whole
whole
scene
arc.
where he's in prison is to me is actually
Some of the best in the whole MCU.
Yes, there's some great scenes in there. You get to see both his trickery and his. You get to see behind that as well as
See
you
his
see
grief.
Yes, you get to see his grief in that moment where he knows he literally contributed to his mother's death.
Right, correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, Thor: The Dark World, and, oh, man, it's been a while since I've just watched that, too,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. I mean, was the action even good? I mean, I don't even really remember big chunks of this movie. Again, all the stuff with Loki was good and important. Like you said, there were important things.
The action in it was kind of over the top for no reason. Just because Thor is godlike, the action was over the top. So Thor had to be like extra strong, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the tone of the movie, like visually, was dark. Like, yes, the dark world, we get it, right? But it did not have to be the shades of color that it was, which luckily Ragnarok redeemed with the bright, vibrant color, filling into the outer space cosmic theme. But yeah, it didn't suit the movie well.
I think the worst part is for sure, though. I mean, it's the villain. I mean, when you think of like the worst villains in the MCU, and there's been a lot of disappointing villains. Trust me. I think we've even had maybe a podcast on that, or if not, we should. Like there are certainly some bad ones, some boring ones, some just nothing villains. But I mean, the what's his name? The Dark Elf, the leader. What's
Malekith.
Malekith.
Yeah, so you can't even remember.
Yeah.
Like
played by Doctor Who.
The only reason I know that is because he's played by Christopher Eccleston,
yes.
which is Doctor Who, and I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. So
yeah,
that's the only way I know.
Poor guy took a fall from grace there, man. I mean,
no, trust me, he really did. He really did.
So Thor: The Dark World. Yeah, Thor: The Crappy World. I mean, it just was
bad.
not.
It's bad.
It was not a good movie. So yeah,
but not as bad as Iron Man 3.
No. I mean, yeah, I mean, you can make an argument for sure, and there are people who would definitely have Thor: The Dark World worse. But
I mean, it just comes down to we always say this. Like every hero is only as good as their villain, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
You have to have both sides of the coin to like feel the weight of the conversation and the weight of the moments that are happening. And yeah, you can have a good, even great movie, but it won't be as great as it can be if the villain is not up to par.
No doubt. Okay. Well, shall we move on to
this is where it actually gets interesting.
This is
in my mind.
Yeah.
Potentially.
In my mind, I'm just thinking about what my ranking was, and I think this could be interesting depending on your guys' rankings. Because so far, I believe we've been unanimous.
We have.
Okay.
And I think we are not on this one.
Okay.
But
I think the rest of the way we should be undecided except for number 1, I think.
Yeah. So the fourth ranked movie is Avengers: Age of Ultron.
All right.
Okay. Now you might say, well, what the heck? An Avengers movie. How could it be so low?
Right. Yeah.
Well, Age of Ultron was definitely
the worst Avengers movie.
Yeah, the least of all the Avengers movies.
But I do think that's a simplification and a kind of an unfair judgment in a lot of ways saying that because of
like you were the worst member of the dream team. It's
yes.
like
right. It's
like being the third Hemsworth brother.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you were still honestly. Every time I watch Age of Ultron, I'm like, it's really not that bad.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Yeah.
It's the expectations were so high, and that's the problem. But yeah, what you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's Iron Man 3 and Thor: Dark World were bad movies. Avengers was an okay movie. That's really what it is. It's not necessarily bad, but I think it fits right where it is because the other movies that are after this that we're about to talk about, they are good to great movies.
Yep.
And I think they had a lot to go against because they had an amazing first Avengers movie where they all came together as a team, right? Mm-hmm. But the feeling that you got from watching the movie, it was an event. It was truly an event. And to replicate an event like that,
just a few years later, too.
The stakes were high. Very, very high.
They were.
So it had a lot going up against it. It really did.
And I think part of it was the fact that they were building from a villain. This is the only one of the Avengers movies they build a villain from just really one movie.
Yeah, the same.
Like, Loki had an entire movie to set up his arc. Thanos had an entire Avengers movie to set up.
Yeah, as well as 6 years.
Yes,
right.
As well as 6 years of building. But then he had an entire movie literally dedicated to him and his build-up. And then for it to pay off in the second of those two with Endgame. Whereas this one, you had from start to finish, you had to introduce the villain, you had to have him have his purpose, build up the team again, deal with everything that was going on, and then defeat the villain all in one movie. As well as introducing multiple new characters, which is kind of the thing that has had that. The reason why a lot of these ensemble movies don't always work,
right,
is because you're doing too much. Like, you're having to spend 15, 20 minutes, dedicated to this character just to understand who he is. Whereas in the first Avengers movie, you didn't really have to do that so much. You really just had to introduce
we said that
one
last week.
character.
We said that last week. Everybody pretty much...
They had their time to shine.
Their time to shine.
Yeah. And you really only had to introduce the
Hawkeye.
Hulk.
Oh,
really.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It was really the one, you had Hawkeye, and he got some of the storyline too. But, in Age of Ultron, you had to introduce, the villain. So you had to introduce Ultron, and then you had the introduction of Vision. You had that.
The twins.
The twins. There's 4 right there without,
There's an interview of Joss Whedon where he's kind of, venting a little bit, where he's like, and, then I had to set up, things for Wakanda and Black Panther, and then I had to, get the, the tracks laid for Civil War. There's so many things that kind of were supposed to spawn out of this movie.
Yeah, right.
Where it was just a lot, and it felt like a lot, and it felt rushed.
It still feels that way.
It does
when you watch it.
And I think what's sad, and you guys can attest to this more than I can because I'm I'm not a comic book guy, but Ultron, he was redeemed a little bit in the What If series, but I mean he is a big bad.
He's a big
villain.
deal.
He is a huge deal.
He is potentially
the comics.
He's potentially the most pestering of any villain in the MCU, just because of the fact that he has that out of all he needs is a connection to technology, and he can survive in some way.
Yeah.
There's always that chance that he can pop up in one way or another.
That's why I'm still hoping.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I'm still
somehow
hoping.
we'll get him again.
Yeah, and to choose somebody like James Spader to voice him, that was telling us before the movie came out that they were investing in this villain because Spader is a great actor as well, and his voice is very, very prominent. And you know what you're getting with him as an actor, and the fact that they didn't make him sound robotic and he just talked to you like a person.
Yeah,
you knew you were going to be in for something really cool going into this movie. But then the movie takes place. There are redeeming qualities about his performance as Ultron.
Totally.
I think he did. I think he did a good job. However, the way they handled the character and his usage in the movie was not to the status of him in the comic book world.
My biggest critique would be, I'm okay with a couple quips. I'm okay a little bit with the funny stuff, but they try to almost make him just as funny as Iron Man.
Yeah.
And different points of the movie, they're going toe to toe in jokes. And I want to see Ultron kill someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to see him.
Did we see that? I don't know. I don't know if we did.
Yeah, I mean,
he technically technically killed Quicksilver. I know, technically.
Yeah.
He was flying the ship that shot at Hawkeye, and then Quicksilver, I know that's not his name, but,
yeah,
right,
runs over and saves him. But, I mean, it just, Age of Ultron, and the funniest thing I've ever seen on the internet about this movie was it was really the week of Ultron.
Right, yeah, no, you're right.
An Age, he could have legit had a whole phase just dedicated to him as the big bad villain.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of what we're about to get with Kang, right?
Yeah.
He could have had that. But... we got sold short a little bit, and that's what's a bummer is we in a sense, unless they redeem him and somehow
down
bring
the
him,
line,
somehow bring him back again, we kind of missed out.
He could be what
left
we
a lot
saw.
to be desired.
He could be what we saw in What If. He really could. That. I mean, besides obviously
that was crazy.
That
the stones are
world-ending
gone,
entity.
Unfortunately, but that world-ending entity, he can
this
do
universe.
that. Man. It would be. Oh, that's true. Good point.
Yeah.
He could be that though. He is that good.
But I kind of see Age of Ultron as, from the outside, it's like getting a triple cheeseburger, and you're like, this should be awesome, but it's probably too much meat for you to actually be able to handle in a sandwich.
Whopper, 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 Whopper.
Like percentage wise, it should
Sued.
you get when it's smaller, it's the ratio of the bun to the cheese to the toppings all works better. Whereas you think going exponentially larger and adding all these extra plot lines and adding all these extra things in there is going to make it exponentially better. But that doesn't always work when you are, adding all this extra meat there has to be room.
Yeah, and then the love thing with Natasha and Bruce. Yeah, just there was just so many plot lines where it just felt it felt bloated.
Very
It
much
really
so.
did.
Yeah.
But again, if I were to rank the entire, and I want to do this somewhat, maybe not on the pod. But I have all my lists of each phase. I kind of want to like see where they all stack up, all of the movies and projects. Age of Ultron isn't as bad as it gets, unfortunately.
It does get roasted
It
pretty
gets
hard.
roasted.
Yes, very hard.
And it's better than it actually is, or that it's perceived to be. Yeah. All right. Anyways, let's move on. Age of Ultron, number 4. Number 3, and by the way, I was the one who you guys had Age of Ultron in the same spot.
Oh, okay.
So I was the one who was different, but that comes up now with the number 3 movie, Ant-Man.
Yep. So
the movie to end phase number 2 after Age of Ultron was Ant-Man. And I think the first thing I think of when I think of Ant-Man is Guardians of the Galaxy, which we'll talk about here soon, was hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But Ant-Man truly felt like they just were like, let's just make a comedy.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Ant-Man. Ant-Man 1 and 2. I think
hilarious.
Pound for pound is the funniest MCU saga. Like it's pound for pound. I think it is.
Well, and I think they knew who they were casting, and they knew what his strengths were. He's a very like snarky, kind of dry type of humor, like type of person. Like every movie you see him in, he's very similar to that stylistically.
Baskin Robbins always finds out, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ant-Man was a really good movie, man.
It was.
A
Yeah.
lot of fun.
It gave us Jimmy Woo.
Yes.
Phenomenal. Randall Park.
Yep.
Gosh, man. I really want to meet him one day. He really is.
Honestly, the supporting cast in Ant-Man,
his entire crew. Like, I don't think Jimmy Woo doesn't show up until the second one, though, right?
I thought he was at the end of the first one.
Was he at the end of the first one?
I thought he was too.
I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yes,
I'm not sure about that.
I'm
going
to
to
say yes. Yes, he was.
Trying to think back. We'll deal with it later. But the supporting cast is great.
Yeah, his whole team is great. You get to see T.I. show up for a moment. You see Michael Pena, who is one of the. I know we've talked about this on there. He's one of the best little side characters that you'll ever see. Just the way he talks and the way he interacts with people. He's so funny in a like kind of dry kind of way. When he's saying stuff, it's funny, but he's not telling a joke. He's just funny by being funny.
Totally.
That type of style that he's going on, and the stories that he would tell, it was just like, and the way they play them into the movie was just really awesome with that. And then I can't remember the actor's name who played the third person who ends up playing the Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad.
It's like David something.
Yes, but he was really good in it too, and his like they all had like this kind of offbeat kind of humor to them, where once again it was like they weren't telling jokes; they were just funny in their environment.
Who they are.
Like, and that's kind of where it leads to. I think that's kind of how the whole Ant-Man series is set up. They're not necessarily telling jokes; they're just funny in the way they are in their being. I mean, even his daughter was the stuff that she would say was hilarious. Like she was just being a little kid and just being funny as a little kid. Like she's like, "Oh, it's so ugly. I love it." Like it's a great
You're
line.
My best friend.
Yes. So it's great in that, and you get to see this. It's a redemption story of his own being, and you get to see that this base set up for him as a character where he was, in a relatively good job at one point, and he gave it up for doing the right thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think sometimes we forget that's how his character was built off of. Was this? It wasn't like he committed a crime to commit a crime. He committed a crime to expose
for the people.
Yeah, literally to expose an injustice in the system that he was in, and he happened to be, sometimes when you are the person who exposes someone more powerful than you, you're put into a situation where you're you're the one that gets in trouble instead
You're
of
the
them.
scapegoat.
Yeah.
And we also get Michael Douglas as Hank Pym.
Yes,
which he does a good role, and it's good seeing him in the MCU.
Yeah, and instant credibility.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like Marvel, you knew when they got him cast, they're like, okay, they take this stuff seriously. Which also, by the way, no Jimmy Woo in Ant-Man. You're right, correct. Sorry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my bad. But
Wow.
he left that lasting of an impression.
Yes,
in
he really does. He
that you want him to be in
How
everything.
about that? Yeah.
But unfortunately, he won't be in the next one either. Anyway,
unfortunately.
but yes, Michael Douglas, he is a heavy hitter, and he brings a lot to the character of Hank Pym, and I believe him and Scott Lang play well off each other in the series. So, and then we have Evangeline Lilly's character, who I think she brings a lot to the character of the Wasp, which we don't get to fully see her in the Wasp in this one, but she does as a supporting character.
Crucial.
She is very crucial. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, she's definitely very important to building up the physical side of Ant-Man, and then also you get to see this struggle between her and her father, and it sets a lot of the groundwork of the second movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for sure.
And it sets up a lot of the reason why he doesn't want to be Ant-Man 2, and a lot of the other mistrust that he has that you see multiple other times. I believe in Civil War, you get to see a little bit. I think in Civil War you get the flashback to the. I think you get a flashback moment in it where you get to see. Or it might be in Ant-Man 2, but
Yeah,
anyway.
it's not in Civil War.
So, but you get to see some of the misgivings and why he isn't a part of the superhero community anymore. So there's a lot of cool stuff there with that too.
I feel like Ant-Man is just one of the easier movies to get like a new fan in support of. Watching Marvel. It's like Ant-Man is just such a fun.
It's a fun ride. It really is a fun ride.
Yeah, really fun ride.
It's also relatively self-contained, so I think that helps with it too.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, the villain's not all phenomenal, but Yellow Jacket, the actor who plays him, he does a good job. Like he actually gives a good performance, but the villain is nothing to
I thought the villain was Thomas the Train.
Thomas the Train is for sure the villain. That was a crazy scene for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean another movie with not a strong villain, but we have learned that almost not all, but most of the introduction movies, origin story movies of these characters in the MCU, most of them have lackluster villains.
Yeah.
Not all of them, right? Black Panther, fantastic. Shang-Chi, fantastic. There are some, but a lot of times the villains aren't great.
Right.
So
yes.
But I will say he may not have been great, but he didn't detract from the movie.
Yeah,
at
I didn't
least.
think so
there are certain villains that they detract from the movie as well. Not instead of just being net zero, they're a net negative. So but I feel like he was at the very best a net net neutral character to maybe a slight positive, but
didn't
he wasn't
add, didn't take away.
Yeah.
Which his character may be getting a redemption arc in this new movie,
Maybe
so
so.
we'll see.
I do think
there.
I still feel like we need to talk more about Quantumania. Maybe we'll do that in a couple weeks. But it's like if this whole movie is about to happen in the quantum realm, it does make you wonder. Some of these side characters that have been a part of the Ant-Man, saga.
Yeah,
we might not get them at all.
No, you're right. You got Jimmy Woo. That's why he's not in this movie.
Yeah,
because it's all in the quantum realm.
Louise might not be in there either.
He's got to be there in the the because he's got to interact with them somehow.
Or I hope he runs in after they all got sucked in the quantum realm. He's like, "Damn, where'd they go?" Something like that. Okay, let's move on. That was the number 3 movie in Phase 2, according to our expert advice and rankings. Number 2, a fantastic movie. Guardians of the Galaxy. All right, man. I'll take you back to, let me think. It must have been the summer of, I think it came out in July. I think after the same summer that the next movie on our list came out, Winter Soldier. Spoiler alert. I think it came out that same summer. So they had 2 back-to-back home run bombs.
Heaters.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But Guardians of the Galaxy, man, this, again, we were just talking about how funny Ant-Man was, and Ant-Man might have actually been funnier than Guardians because it felt like a legitimate comedy. But Guardians of the Galaxy isn't necessarily a comedy, but it's just freaking hilarious.
It is fun. It may not necessarily be super-duper funny, but it's fun.
It's funny.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, James Gunn kills it.
Yes.
It's an ensemble movie. I mean, it's an origin story for not just one character, for freaking like 5.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, maybe more.
And,
So it's
and
just,
this movie, when it was coming out, this is the first movie where I had zero clue of the material, the source material of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I had never read a comic book, nothing. I knew nothing about this, and I was like, Guardians of the Galaxy, huh? What is this? But of course, since then, I've read multiple things from the Guardians, and but yeah, it was the first thing that I went in kind of blind to the characters, and man, was I blown away, man. This was quite the ride.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
It was a huge gamble for the MCU, especially we've kind of talked a little bit about where they were timeline-wise and how you were feeling about the MCU leading into this movie. And you were dealing with this whole, like, kind of lackluster showing.
Did this come first before Captain America, or?
no, Captain America came first.
Okay.
Captain America did come first, but you have to think, you know, you have these 2 movies not do very well, and then you don't have enough time between between Captain America being an awesome hit and Guardians coming out to really know what to do as a studio. So you got to push this movie out, and it's a huge risk in the sense of you don't have any name recognition with any of the characters. You know, like no one knows who any of these characters are. The most famous actors in this movie are not actually seen. You never see their faces. And Vin Diesel and Bradley Cooper at the time
you're
were
right,
the 2 biggest characters, and you don't see their faces at all. And I mean, people were starting to understand Chris Pratt, but they weren't 100% there yet. And although Gamora Zoe Saldana had already been in a $1 billion movie, she wasn't necessarily like the super face of anything of her on her own right. So it was a very risky play for them, and it paid off in spades.
Oh yeah, for sure. It really did. And each one of these characters, I feel like they each shined in this movie.
Yeah.
Like they each got their moment in the sun, and it made you fall in love with each and every single character. Because normally in an origin movie where you don't give the characters enough time, you feel disconnected. Eternals. But this movie, each character played off each other in a way to where it built each character up. So each character's introduction built the next introduction up, and you kind of felt that domino effect into greatness when you see all them as an entire team for the first time. And it really was a good thing to see them come together as that complete team.
Yeah, man. Such an unlikely group of misfits.
Yeah, there you go.
Right?
That's what,
but it was a lot of fun. And then you also get Thanos introduced.
That's right.
As the background villain. Again, the real villain of the movie was, technically Ronan, right?
Yeah, technically, yeah.
/ Nebula.
Yeah, a little, yeah, right. But again, it wasn't really, you really couldn't care less about, like, the Kree and all of his, like, his stance, right?
No, it didn't matter.
Didn't really care, but just the crew, and then Yondu, and
Kraglin,
yeah, and then they're going after an Infinity Stone, and then this is actually the first time where we get a full commentary, I believe, of the Infinity Stones.
A full breakdown of what the Infinity Stones kind of are and
with
how they work.
Or not Banderas, was it?
The Collector.
Benicio del Toro.
Benicio del Toro,
Mm-hmm.
So, and on top of that, it was just hilarious.
Yes, it was.
And you got the, the dance off to save the universe at the end.
Yeah.
It's just...
And just the expansion of the universe in the sense of you're not just on Earth anymore. It was their first breakout into, you get to really see the world, or the universe, like literally the universe. Like you get to see all these extra
different
places,
planets, Nowheres, Xandar.
Because up until this point, you've seen the Chitauri and things like that, but it had all been Earth centric. It had all been about Earth, and you hadn't really seen how this affected the rest of anything.
Yeah. Indeed, and the soundtrack was great.
Oh man, the soundtrack! I think the soundtrack was its own character in the movie. It was.
It has been in both volumes.
Yeah.
I mean, I still put it on every once in a while.
Yeah, man, it's
And
really is good.
we were just talking about Ant-Man, and you know how Ant-Man's got a new movie coming out. Well, technically, Guardians also has another movie coming out.
That is right.
In May,
Yes.
so it's not long
That's
before we
exciting,
get
man.
the
That
Chapter
really is.
3,
And we
Volume
just had
3.
the holiday special too.
That's right. We just had the holiday special.
So Guardians are fresh on the brain.
And
sure.
there's actually, it's funny, Guardians 1 and Guardians 2, there is such a fun debate online of like where people stand with these two movies. That's probably unlike every other franchise within Marvel, because like everybody would say that Iron Man's the best Iron Man. Like Iron Man 1.
Yes.
Everybody would say Thor Ragnarok's the best Thor movie. Everybody would say Captain America 2. Mostly, some people would say Civil War's better, and that's fair.
Yeah. Okay.
But for the most part, I've noticed that the debate between Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Guardians is like, it's neck and neck.
It is. It is.
So, the people want to know where we stand, gentlemen. I know this is shooting from the hip here, but if you had to say, which do you prefer, Guardians 1 or Guardians 2? And there is a right answer.
There is a right answer? Oh, wow.
I feel strongly about this.
Okay. Is this something we should
One
wait?
of my most controversial Facebook posts of all time was where I said, everybody answer this question and answer it with a GIF. So they picked a GIF from the movie that they
nice.
voted for. And I couldn't believe how split down the middle it was. That's what I'm saying.
Is this something that should be answered next week after we talk about Guardians 2?
Make the people wait? As long as everyone just promises to not share it off the pod. I don't want to know off the pod.
That's called a cliffhanger, fellas.
Cliffhanger. Come back next week, ladies and gentlemen, to figure out where we stand on that debate. Okay. Let's finish up with clearly, and last week there was a question. I was like, okay, is anybody going to have Iron Man #1, or is everybody going to have Avengers #1 for Phase 1? Mm-hmm. And next week there's a little bit of a question about what #1 will be as well, which, come back for that. But I knew what everybody on this podcast was going to have as #1 for Phase 2.
Yeah.
It was the easiest thing of all of our phases to vote on. So I said it earlier, in process of elimination, you probably already figured it out. Captain America: The Winter Soldier is by far the best movie of Phase 2.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
Dude.
So
honestly, it was like revolutionary. This movie not only did it change the MCU period, like it changed.
Saved it.
It saved it. Yes. Thank you. That's where I was going with it. It saved the MCU because you were coming off these turds of Iron Man 3, which I think turd is not even the right word to use for that movie. But also Thor: The Dark World, and then you're questioning the whole entire state of the MCU, and then they release this movie, and not only is it a great MCU movie, it is a great cinema. This is like cinema. So whatever Martin Scorsese is saying about the MCU and Marvel and all that kind of stuff, Winter Soldier is a great cinematic movie. It is phenomenal. Man. You can take the plot of Winter Soldier and change the characters, take it out of the MCU and the Marvel, and just put it into our normal FBI, CIA, whatever it's going to be, and it would be incredible.
Yes.
It is insane. It is crazy to see the depth that this movie has, and it's up there. Like I don't. There's some days you ask me what the best MCU movie is, I would say Winter Soldier, but then there's other days where I'll argue and say it's some other one. But this movie right here is arguably it is phenomenal.
It's a phenomenal spy thriller where you get just to see this awesome just espionage going back and forth. I mean, you get Robert Redford. I mean, you get Robert Redford to be in an MCU movie. That is insane. He is a phenomenal actor, and there's so many. You see so much spycraft going on, and there's a great just moments left and right that you get to see just all through the movie, and it's thrilling. And you're definitely right. You could take away everything that is Captain America, that is the symbolism that he has and everything like that, and it works as just a spy movie, and it is so good in that right as just that, and then you add in everything that it builds for the MCU, and it's great. It's
got one of the greatest reveals of any movie I've ever seen. I remember being in the theater when they did the reveal of Hydra, and I was like, my jaw was hitting the floor. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
You
legitimately when there's that moment where everyone has to choose a side. Like you feel it. Like that's not like it feels like you're watching. And it's going to sound this is hyperbolic, and it's going to sound hyperbolic, but you feel like you're almost watching like a documentary of like these people who are forced to choose a side in their own, like in these people who heroically choose to stick with Shield at that moment. Like I feel for those people. Like the guy who is like at the computer refusing to, put in the codes, the pilots that actually decide to stay with Shield as they're getting blown out of the sky in those moments is legitimately like, it pulls you in. It's harrowing. Like I know it's definitely hyperbolic, and it's definitely like bigger than, it's definitely not as big as real life stuff. But in those moments, you really do feel for the decisions that those people are having to make in those moments.
And then the action.
Yes.
The knife flip. The knife drop.
Man, the knife drop, man.
Just like
so good.
Just everything that happens with Winter Soldier and the reveal of Bucky, which, most people knew ahead of time, but Cap didn't know.
Yeah.
And you feel it in Cap.
The reveal when he realizes that it's Bucky, you feel it for him.
Who the hell is Bucky?
Yeah, and this is another example of Marvel movie having a good villain that therefore the hero can play off of. Not only Winter Soldier, but Robert Redford himself as a villain.
Yeah. And right when you see him too, you're like, oh, he's a bad guy.
Yeah. But I think something that goes, I don't know, kind of under the radar for this movie. Yes, we got a lot of Samuel L. Jackson in the Avengers movie, but Samuel L. Jackson and the depth of Nick Fury really shows in this movie because he's not just the head or the director of an organization, right? He's the heartbeat of this organization, and he's the one that kind of makes the call that's right, the right call, and not necessarily of what the government's asking him to do, that kind of thing, right? And you see that play out in his character, and it really is like when you see the scene where he may have died, that kind of thing, right? Like you feel that, you see that, and the reveal of he had to do it because he knew that they were on him.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things. So again, this isn't within the movie itself, but there's a YouTube channel that I know these guys are familiar with. And if you're not familiar with it, listener, go check it out. It's called Honest Trailers.
Yes.
Where they basically just kind of make fun of movies by giving an honest trailer of the movie, of what the movie really is about. And almost always, they're just kind of picking fun, making fun of the movie.
Yeah.
And, when they did the one for Captain America, they, kind of jokingly were like, it was a good movie. But since this is Honest Trailers, get ready for nitpicking. And like all of their big points they made, they acknowledged like, it's actually a really good movie.
Yeah.
And we're kind of a funny, YouTube page. So we're still going to make some funny comments, but really they even acknowledge it's a really good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that. So, okay, last thing I'll say, and that this is important for us, just the future of Marvel from this moment on, right? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the directors.
Oh, I know. Yes. There you go. Key here, like this is the Russo brothers.
Yes.
Which not only are they coming into a directorial debut as far as like big, large, blockbuster cinematic movie.
Yes.
They're coming off of being producers and directors of a tiny show in Community that is one of our favorite shows of all time.
That has won our hearts.
Yes. Yeah. And you're coming off of that into one of the potentially biggest characters, biggest franchises, biggest things in the world. So what was the reception going to be? Well, you got a whole lot of heart is what you got. And that's something that they bring to their movies is heart. They know how to portray heart. They know how to show the audience their heart and make us feel something in our heart. They really do. Like it's crazy the range that they were able to bring to this movie, and you felt every second of this movie. Not only did this movie save the MCU, but it also saved a beloved show of ours, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. Because spoilers, that show changes after this movie.
Yeah. Which we'll leave it at that. But
yes.
But then also keep in mind the Russos. They did such a good job that they were then rewarded
with another
Civil War.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Marvel committed to them not only doing Civil War, like the third Captain America movie, but also they said, hey, we want you to also do the next two Avenger movies.
Yes.
That's so wild.
If that doesn't show you
knocked
how
out of the park.
Yeah, if that doesn't prove to you how successful Captain America Winter Soldier is, like, I don't know what would.
If that doesn't prove to you that Community is a phenomenal show and you need to go watch it,
go watch it now.
Right this second.
All right, boys, this has been fun. So this was Phase 2. I loved it. Again, it started out very weak, and then it got so much stronger.
Yeah.
Next week we're gonna finish. We're gonna kind of finish our ranking of Marvel movies within each phase with Phase 3, which is nearly double the size of Phase 2.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
no, that's crazy.
So we're gonna have to be a
about.
little more brief.
Yes.
Next week for sure.
Well, it'll also be more interesting to see. There'll be a little more variety and variation.
Yeah, there's really only so. You guys had the same exact list.
I picked up on that.
And mine was only different. I was really hung up on
3 and
Ant-Man.
4.
Yeah, 3 and 4. I was really hung up on Ant-Man and Age of Ultron. And I was like, well, I think I liked Age of Ultron a little better.
If I had to guess, I think you saw Age of Ultron recently, like compared to us. Like I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, probably. So yeah, it gets better with time.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we had a great time talking about this, ranking Phase 2 movies. I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion. We want to remind you to hit the subscribe button wherever you are listening or watching, and also to follow us on social media at Royal Geek Pod. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. And please come back next week. We will be ranking Phase 3, which has so many massive films.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to really enjoy our discussion and breakdown of next week because I think our lists are going to look a lot different. Like, I really do.
It's not going to be as solid as this one. Like the Phase 2, I think is more consistent. Obviously, since Shimano had the exact same list.
Literally, yeah. So come on back for that next week, and we can't wait to see you. So, with all that in mind, for my good friends Sandy and Shimano, this is T-Roll saying thank you so much for listening to the Royal Geek Podcast. We will see you next time, you peasants.